Dynapwr is back, and better than ever. At least, that's what Wilson say. So are they right, and could this driver give the most surprising performance of the 2025 season? So today I'm testing out the new Wilson Dynapwr range. This is version 2 of this, as we saw the previous release of this in 2023. Now Wilson claim to have made huge upgrades here, and they've been doing loads of investment into their R&D team, so it'll be interesting to see what changes we've got. Now in terms of the range, there's 3 models. In the middle sits the Carbon, and that's designed to give us the best fusion of speed and forgiveness. Below that we have the LS, and as the name says, that's their low spin model. That's really designed for higher clubhead speed players, and it's going to really bring down that spin, be very precise, and also be probably a little bit more fade bias. At the top of the range we've got the Max. This is designed to really deliver that stability and forgiveness a lot of us need, especially on those off-centre strikes. Today I've got the Max and the LS to test out, so let's go see if those R&D upgrades are just as good as Wilson say they are. Okay, so first up we have the Max model, and I actually love the way this looks behind the golf ball. It's just this huge black shiny seamless crown. It sits really nicely behind the ball. There's just something about that all black gloss finish that looks really classic and really classy, and I love it. I also just think that whole like black, white, red colorway looks really sharp behind the golf ball. Now, because this is the Max head, the shape and the design of this is really stability driven. Wilson have had a big focus on aerodynamics this year, and although they want a blend of distance and forgiveness in this, really the aerodynamic and the shaping is really focused on stability. That does mean it's on the larger size in terms of the profile behind the ball, but to be honest, because it's so clean and sleek, I think you really get away with it, and it's shaped really nicely. Now this is a 10.5 club head. I've not been fitted into this, but they have given me a shaft that I've kind of sent my specs in, and they've found the most similar. So this is Denali 60 gram stiff, which is pretty near what I would use. Now I would say this sits slightly closed behind the golf ball. This is a model that's designed to be a little bit draw biased. As we know, most people are slicers. If they're right-handed, they move the ball left to right. I actually don't think it's too excessive. Sometimes when clubs look shut, it can be off-putting, but I don't mind it at all. If you are someone who doesn't want it to look shut but just think, well, I would like that forgiveness, don't panic. We've got added adjustability in the hosel here, so we can tweak that using this. If you're going to do that, I would recommend doing it with a fitter, because then you can optimize which club head loft you go for, so what static loft you pick, with then how the hosel is set up. So generally, to open up the club face a little bit, you loft a golf club down. So it might be that you moved into a 10.5 or maybe even higher, then lofted it down to get the club face sitting square. That actually feels really nice and soft. A lot softer than I expected. And it was also super powerful. Like, that felt really nice straight off the face. Not my fastest clubhead speed. Some of that could be down to the slightly bigger clubhead we've got in this. It's a 92 for 138 ball speed. But actually that gave me 232 yards of carry, which I'd be really pleased with. Now Skytrack Plus, which is what I'm measuring the shots with, gives me like a color-coded system on my launch conditions based on the clubhead speed I put in and what would be optimal. And actually here it's saying everything's a little bit high, so that was 32 yards max height, 40 descent angle, that's how steep the ball comes down, 18 launch and 2,735 spin. I mean, my optimal range on spin stops at 2,700, so it's been a little bit picky there. But I actually prefer the numbers to be a tad high. I think that's a little bit more forgiving, keeps the ball on line. When they start dropping down low, that's when you tend to have a problem. Again, 92 clubhead speed, 143 ball speed. I do think that's really efficient for what I'm putting into it and what it's giving me out. The max height was a bit more normal there, 23, which is probably what I would typically see with most of my drivers I've been testing. But we're back in the green with launch conditions there. So 13 degrees launch, 2,447 spin, 33 descent, 2.3 carry for 260 total. That's really solid, especially for a non-custom fit club. Now, Wilson have invested over 1,000 hours of AI computer time into these new models. This is all part of their new R&D process. Within that, they've done 2,000 different face iterations, and each face has 40 different parameters that they're optimizing for. Now, the back of all this research was that this year, each club face in this range is a different design, and it's designed to perfectly fit the characteristics that they want to create with that club head. It certainly seems to be delivering forgiveness here. That's just a really solid ball flight, and I really like the stability of it. I wouldn't say it's excessively draw biased. I would say it's very stable. They all seem to be almost going on a rope and fairly straight, but it's probably not the most draw biased of the ranges I've tested, but it does feel very forgiving even if I don't quite strike it right. These like club and ball speed numbers are so consistent. If like I couldn't see the other stuff changing, I'd almost think like my launch monitor was frozen. 92 club head speed again, 142 ball speed, 236 carry, 260 total. All my numbers are optimised in green there. 15 launch, 2612 spin, 36 descent angle, 27 max height. I really like that. I like something 25 plus. I just think it gives you a little bit of extra hang time. This is just a really solid performer so far. Okay, that was my bad one where I kind of catch it a bit toey, but actually it still stayed really straight and on line, which is what I always look for, like how can your bad shot help you out? I think if you're someone who hits it high right, you should be looking for a driver that's like tendency is low left, because you're just trying to balance out that bad shot. It's really important not just to pick a driver based on how it performs when you hit a good shot, because we don't hit a good shot every time. And actually most of our gains can be made from a bad shot not being quite as bad. Now, because that was a slight toe strike, the height went up a little bit, just opened the loft, so did the launch. But actually the spin still stayed good, like 2384 I really like, because my spin can drop low sometimes on those shots. And actually, I still got 234 carry, which is pretty good. Overall, I've been really impressed with the performance of this model. I think it's actually really surprised me, one, just how long it is and how forgiving and consistent it has been. I think that really echoes the change we've seen at Wilson in their R&D. They're really putting a massive focus back into drivers. They want to be more known and more well played in that category, especially on tour. I think it's funny because we forget how iconic this brand is and how deep the history is in golf. I mean, their irons have won the most majors in history ever. Now recently the Wilson brand as a whole, which is obviously really strong in loads of other sports, has come back in. They're investing more in golf, and we can really see that in the jump in technology and the changes they're making each year. This driver's definitely one to test out if this performance is anything to go by. Let's go see how the LS model compares. I'm just taking a little break to give you a minute to hit that subscribe button. Go on. You've got time, there's nothing else to do. Did you know over 80% of people watching my channel aren't currently subscribed? And actually having a bigger subscriber number really helps in terms of the places I can go to film and the products I can get to film with. So really it's in your best interest, because I can bring more great videos back to you if I can drive that subscriber number up. So please hit that subscribe button, and while you're there you might as well give this video a like and drop us a comment about what other videos you'd like to see on the channel. Okay, so this LS model is definitely a lot different in terms of shaping. The club head is much deeper, and actually this is a different volume. This is a 455cc head, so it's slightly smaller and it's more compact. It's also got raised skirts at the edges, and the shaping is just much more noticeably different. This is just to make it as aerodynamic as possible. So let's see if that difference in shaping delivers anything different in terms of club head speed. I actually really like the deeper face and the different shaping. I just wonder if I'll be able to spin this enough. The crown on this is completely different too. We've got like an alignment aid at the front. I think a lot of tour players prefer that. I know people like Tiger have had a big impact in people like TaylorMade bringing stuff like that in, and it's because you can counteract how the face looks and get it to sit perfectly to your eye with that kind of line. We've also got more of a texture on the carbon crown, and to be honest I kind of preferred that like all black gloss look. I mean, this still looks really nice, but it's just, oh, the max was so good. This is a 9-degree head as well compared to 10.5 in the previous, but we've got the same shaft setup. Oh, that felt nice. Felt softer off the face, but almost higher pitched in terms of sound. And actually I was saying the other one didn't necessarily feel that draw bias, but that definitely flew a little bit further right. So my club head speed actually straight away has jumped up 3 miles an hour to 95, but actually the spin was 1700, which is super low. That's probably one of the biggest jumps we've seen in terms of a club actually being super low spin. Now, although I've got 142 ball speed out of this, which would be pretty good for me, it's only delivered 222 of carry distance. That's just because that spin's so low, like the ball's just not staying in the air for long enough. It's still giving me a 253 total distance, so this would totally work in like a link setting where I could run it. But if I was on a course where I needed to like carry a hill or a bunker, probably not the most optimized for me. But I just don't really spin the ball much, so that's like a me that's a me problem, not the club problem. Like the club is doing what it says it's going to do, which is spin low. That low spin is really hindering my ability to hold the ball on line. I'm actually losing it a little to the right though, which is quite unusual for me and To be honest, I don't hate it. 95 mile an hour clubhead speed again, but only 135 ball speed because the strike just wasn't as good. If we think of my bad strike with the max, I had much more ball speed. So you can just see that there's a lot more forgiveness in that head. But you know, it did still get 230 carry, which I'm not going to complain about. Yeah, my clubhead speed's up. My ball speed's 142, which is pretty good. But I'm just not spinning it enough to get the most out of this club. 1,700's not going to cut it for me at that clubhead speed. But I tell you what, if you're someone who spins it a lot and needs a club that's going to get it down, this is totally going to help. Now, we do have interchangeable weights on here as well, so a back and a front weight, which you can swap around. Currently, I've got the light one in the front, so I could make this spin even less if I switched these around, which is actually a scary thought. If you want in low spin, precision, and something that's a little bit fade biased, this definitely delivers. I just don't have the clubhead speed or enough spin to use this. If you're after forgiveness, distance, max model, it just seems to have it all. Okay, I'm just butting back into this video. Sadly, I'm no longer in sunny Locala in Spain. I'm back in England, but my Wilson Carbon model has arrived. I'm going to hit a few shots inside here, show you how it stacks up compared to the other models. Now, in terms of tech differences, we've got a slightly lowered crown on this and also a slightly flatter sole, so we should have a little bit of difference in terms of those aerodynamics. This is a 460cc head, and the design's really been tour inspired. They've worked with a lot of their tour players to get this to sit really nicely behind the golf ball. I actually really do love the way this sits. It's slightly more compact than the Max model that we've looked at before, but a little bit more bigger than the LS, so a little bit more confidence inspiring there. Now, as we saw in the LS, we've also got two adjustable weights in here. There's a 3-gram weight at the front near the face, and then a heavier 9-gram weight in the back. These can be adjusted and changed around to give us kind of different properties. So for example, if you suddenly wanted less spin, you could put a heavier weight in the front, bring that CG lower and forward. That would reduce spin and ball flight. So it just allows them to have more customization here. Now, I actually got fit for this at the end of August on a Wilson trip. We went to learn all about the new technology, meet loads of the team, the designers, and also get fit for the new models. And my kind of remit in this fitting was like, I've been struggling to hit fairways. I want something that helps me hit the ball straighter, and that's why we've kind of gone on for the setup that we've got here. So this is a shorter than standard shaft, which is pretty exciting because it's not something I've really used loads before. People tend to fit me into a full length shaft because they don't always have different options to test in the fitting, and they kind of don't want to guess and give me something that's not right. Wilson actually had loads of short shafts to test, and I really liked how comfortable this felt over the golf ball. So we've gone for, yeah, something a little bit different. We've also gone slightly lighter in the shaft, so this is 50 grams, but still stiff, and it's an even flow riptide. This is also a 10.5 head, which is the same as what we had in the Mac, but slightly more loft than we had in the LS. Now on the crown, we've gone back to that kind of textured pattern, and we've got this alignment aid on the front again, and this just looks really smart, but I still kind of feel like I'm leaning towards that Max in terms of the look, because it was just really clean on the crown. I've also got a few more layers on than I did in space. Let's see if we can get the same clubhead speed out of this or not. Tell you what, this short shaft feels really good and like comfortable behind the ball though. Well, it's definitely gone straight. $232 yards of carry distance. Apparently I've just swung that at 100 mile an hour. That's incredible. 26 in terms of height, 16 launch angle. Spins 2,101. You can see kind of from all those numbers, Skytrack's saying that's amber, so they're not quite optimal. I think I would like a little bit more spin and launch. Can't argue with those carry distances though. It's definitely a little bit more of a pull, as we can see from the data, but actually it's only 24 yards offline, which will pretty much easily hit any fairway. I mean, most fairways you've got about 45-50 yards of width, even over here in England where they tend to be a little bit narrower. Again, spin a tad on the low side though. feel like I was kind of waiting for that one because it looks a little short. I just want to like push it a bit to the right. But actually it kind of helped me in terms of like the max height getting up to 28. Obviously the spin is still not optimal, and I do tend to find I hit it more offline if I have a less spin. Kind of find a little bit extra spin kind of holds the ball online a little bit. Kind of surprising because I was hitting this really well in the fitting and really straight. But one thing I would say is I got fit with a range ball. Where we're at didn't have like proper golf balls on the driving range. I do think that makes a big difference in terms of what you get fit into, because if you think of how tight we're trying to get the dispersion of those spin numbers there, you've kind of got like a 500 RPM window. You could completely throw that out of the picture just by changing the golf ball. So maybe that's a factor in the numbers not quite being right here. It's doing pretty well for distance though. I thought it would drop down a lot because of the distance of the shaft, but averaged in like the low 230s with the others. This isn't that far off at all. So it goes to show you sometimes going to a short shaft is the right thing. You can kind of strike it a little bit better, and you're not necessarily going to lose loads of distance. That felt really nice. It feels really good off the club face. That was 140 ball speed from 98 mile an hour of club head speed, which I'll be really pleased with. That's giving me 236 carry over 267 total, which is pretty long for me. Now, obviously when we're looking at the numbers, like it's launching a tad high, 16, so slightly above what SkyTrack is saying optimal, but my spin is still low, although the descent angle has managed to creep into the green. You know, it's performing really well when I flush it, but when I don't quite get it because of that low spin, you just lose it a little bit. Okay, so overall, these are the final numbers we were working with. On average here, I was putting in 97 mile an hour of club head speed. That was giving me 139 ball speed on average. The launch angle was 16, which is pretty good, but maybe perhaps a tad on the high side. But it was actually paired with 2032 spin, which is fairly low. And I would say for me, I tend to like it more around the 2.5 mark. I just feel a lot more comfortable with a little bit more spin. Total carry was 230, which is really good and still up there with the other models, despite the slightly shorter shaft length. The height was 26, which again I think is pretty good, but the descent angle was a little flat at 34. In terms of carry, all three models were similar. I did manage to get 4 more yards out of the max. I do think in terms of the spin, that being at 2,544 was a lot more optimal for me and what I like to see. Having said that, I've obviously tested these drivers in way different environments. I am inside today, but it is still cold and it's nothing compared to like the 20-degree weather we had in Spain. So I'm really excited to get this out on the golf course soon. Hopefully somewhere warmer, and see how it performs there. But hopefully this gives you a good kind of insight into the 3 different models, how they differ. Overall, I have to say, I've been super impressed with this new Dynapwr range from Wilson. I think one thing that surprised me is that they didn't change the Dynapwr range. I know the previous range was really successful, performed really well, and was kind of a jump up for the brand, and it's hard to leave that behind, but I still think a new name is like exciting and different and people want to find out what it is. And I really hope the fact that it's not a name change doesn't put people off, because both these models were really strong performers. Overall, super impressed with this Dynapwr range. You can definitely see the investment that Wilson's putting in, and it's paying off.